Today's Read Aloud was written by a new author and a friend of Mrs. Clark's Reading Corner. Finnigan's Leprechaun Luck, written by Janell Thompson. In all of Ireland, there was no one luckier at finding things than Finnigan McPhee. He helped Mr. McGinnis find a ring that he'd lost in his paddy field. He helped old Mrs. Flannery find her lost glasses. He even found Mrs. Murphy's sewing needle that she had dropped in a pile of hay. But Finnigan soon grew bored of finding such ordinary things. I want to find something special, Finnigan thought one evening. Something challenging, something no one else has found before. I want to find a leprechaun. He set out early the next morning to search for leprechauns in the rocky hills just north of his home. He climbed rock after rock and searched hill after hill until finally he could search no more. The bright sunny sky he had enjoyed earlier that morning had turned to a dark and cloudy afternoon, and the sound of thunder rumbled through the hills. "Dear me," Finnigan exclaimed, "I've lost track of the time. I'd best be getting home now before the storm hits." A giant raindrop fell from the sky and landed kerplop on his shoulder, followed by another, and another, and yet another. There was no way he'd make it home in time now. Finnigan ran inside a nearby cave for shelter just as the rain began to pour heavily down. "Made it just in time," Finnigan announced to himself. "It's really bucketing down now." As he stood watching the rain fall, Finnigan noticed a slight movement off in the distance. He narrowed his eyes to make out the object in the rain and was surprised to see the shape of a wee man dressed in green approaching closer to the cave. "Saints alive!" Finnigan whispered aloud. "I do believe it's a leprechaun. I'd better hide so as not to scare him off." Finnigan ran to the back of the cave and crouched down behind a boulder in wait of the leprechaun. A tiny pair of feet could be heard scuffling into the cave, and then all went silent for a time. Finnigan carefully peered around the boulder to catch a glimpse of the strange new arrival, but was startled to find a small, wet face staring right back at him.
"What do you think you're doing hiding there behind that rock?"
the soggy little man demanded. His hands were placed on his hips, and his bushy orange eyebrows were furrowed deep.
"Out with you now!"
Finnigan did as he was told and stood in awe of the leprechaun standing before him. "Glory be," Finnigan muttered at last. "I really did it. I've actually found me a leprechaun, and now that I've found you, I'd best be using me wishes for your pot of gold."
"Wishes? Ha!"
the leprechaun scoffed.
"I don't have to grant you anything. You didn't find me. I found you. I'm the best finder of all."
Finnigan was stunned. Surely this was just one of the leprechaun's tricks. "You little rascal, you found me after I found you. That makes me the best finder of all," Finnigan argued.
"Fiddlesticks!"
the clever leprechaun replied.
The best finder of all wouldn't need to wish for a pot of gold. He'd find it. But 'tis a sporting man I am, so I'll tell you what. I'll let you try your hand at finding me gold instead. That would certainly prove your ability.
But it could be anywhere, Finnigan said. And how will I know that you won't move the gold if I be close to finding it?
Simple,
The leprechaun replied.
I'll conjure up a rainbow and keep me gold at the end of it. That way, you'll always be able to see where it's at. I'll remain at the cave. But after 8 minutes, then the rainbow will fade. And with it, the pot of gold will fade also. So, what's it to be? Would you like to try your luck at finding it?
A rainbow to point the way? Finnigan paused to think. The little man had promised not to interfere. And with his luck at finding things, what did he have to lose? You're sure you'll stay here and that you won't move the gold? He cautiously questioned.
As sure as a shamrock grows 3 leaves,
The leprechaun replied. By now, the rain had slowed to a stop, and Finnigan smiled at the little man's promise. "'Tis a deal you have, then," Finnigan said. With that, the leprechaun walked to the front of the cave and caught the droplets of water that were forming from the rocks overhead. Then he tossed the droplets high up into the air, and the water's mist fell slowly down to the ground just as the first ray of sunshine broke out from behind the clouds. Almost immediately, a magnificent rainbow began to take form, arching high up into the sky and landing just beyond the neighboring hills. Then, with a grand swoop of his hand and a slight bow, the leprechaun said,
farewell, me laddie. Good luck. I leave you.
Finnigan wasted no time getting started. He gave the wee man a nod and then set out to find his fortune. He knew he'd have to hurry if he wanted to find the pot of gold in time. He ran down one hill and hiked up over the next to where he thought the rainbow had ended. But when he got there, he was surprised to find that the rainbow was further out still. I could have sworn that this was where the rainbow ended, Finnigan mused. But now I see that I was mistaken, for the end is not here, but over by those boulders instead. He quickened his pace, but found that the closer he got to the boulders, the further away the rainbow seemed to be. By now the colors on the rainbow were beginning to fade quickly, and Finnigan knew that his time was running out. Again he looked at the rainbow to try to pinpoint its location, but this time as he did so, he could see the faint glimmer of something gold shining there at the rainbow's end. "I see it!" Finnigan cried out. "I found the pot of gold! Now if only I can reach it in time!" Finnigan ran toward the gold as fast as his legs could carry him, but by the time he was within an arm's reach of it, the rainbow had faded completely away, and nothing but a small 4-leaf clover remained, marking the exact place where the pot of gold had been. It was then that Finnigan realized that he'd been outwitted, for true to his word, 'twas not the gold that the leprechaun had moved, but the end of the rainbow instead. And although he had been tricked out of finding the pot of gold, Finnigan knew that the leprechaun had indeed left him a bit of good luck.